And how's everybody doing? I'm Jay Elsen, and this is Coyote Corner. Well, if you look back at the contributing factors to South Dakota's recent struggles, the lack of takeaways is one thing that certainly stands out. Coming into their matchup with number 11 Youngstown State, the Coyotes had gone more than 16 quarters without forcing a turnover. Needless to say, Joe Glenn and company looking to end that drought Saturday against the Penguins, and it wouldn't take long. First quarter, Miles Bergner punting from deep in his own end. Christian Bryan looking to return, but he can't haul it in. Luke Warden jumps on it for USD, and the streak is over. There would be more where that came from. Second quarter, Youngstown up 7 and driving, but Hunter Wells picked off by John Wessel. First career INT for the sophomore, and USD takes over at its own 31. And this time, the offense would capitalize. Kevin Earl swings it out to Jasper Sanders, and he'll do the rest. Great effort to get to the pylon. 7-yard touchdown makes it 7-7 at the half. Youngstown got it first to start the third quarter, but they wouldn't have it long. Drew Eddings gets the sack and the fumble. The third takeaway of the day gives the Coyotes the ball at the YSU 38. That led to this. Miles Bergner from 50 yards out, no doubt about it. Bergner's new career long puts the Coyotes up 10-7. Miles, by the way, now 13 for 13 on the season. The Yotes would add to their advantage before the end of the quarter. Sanders adds to an already big day, 22 yards into Youngstown territory. Jasper carried 20 times for 105 yards. 7 plays later, Earl polishes off the drive of the QB keeper. Coyotes led 17-7 after 3. But things would turn around in a hurry. First play of the fourth quarter, Wells heaves it deep. It goes off the fingertips of Steve Tellefson and right into the arms of Andrew Williams. 58-yard touchdown cuts the lead to 3. Next Penguins possession brings another big play. Jody Webb finds a lane, and nobody is going to catch him. Webb streaks 60 yards to give Youngstown State the lead, and they would hang on from there. The Penguins scored 21 unanswered to rally past the Coyotes 28-17. Youngstown State putting up 263 of its 557 yards of total offense in that final 15 minutes. Just a gut-wrenching loss for South Dakota.
Tough, emotional loss. And you blow a lead in the fourth quarter. It's tough to overcome. And thought we played hard. We fought. We had some momentum going. Just couldn't finish this one out.
Losing's never fun, but we got to learn from this, build on it. I think we played pretty well as a defense. We still just got to cut out those big plays.
Despite the defeat, the Coyotes found plenty to take away in Youngstown. We'll talk turnovers with head coach Joe Glenn when we come back.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by BillionAuto.com.
And welcome back to Coyote Corner. Jay Elsen down at the Dakota Dome with head coach, University of South Dakota, Joe Glenn. And Joe, 3 years, 3 good games now against Youngstown State. Why do you think you guys match up so well with the Penguins?
I can't answer that. We talked about it before the show. Just we competed at a very high level. We need a win. Our kids want to win badly. We fought cats and dogs, and they needed a win to stay alive in what they're trying to do, and consequently both teams competed very hard.
Well, let's get into the details of this one. Takeaways were a big part of the story for you on Saturday. Hadn't had one in a long time, but you go get 3 of them against Youngstown State. That had to feel really good.
It's Jay, for the first time in about a month, we felt some momentum. Offense, defense, special teams, everybody clicking, all on the same page, fighting and hitting on the back. When the defense got the pick, we went in.
Yep.
Defense recovered a fumble, kicked a field goal, and just punt kept them at bay. I think they looked at over right at 80 yards all day long, and there was some really good special things going on for the Yotes.
Yeah, well, you talked about those turnovers, and not only did you get them, but you turned a couple of them into points, and that's that momentum thing you mentioned. Second quarter, John Wessel had a great day overall. I think he had a team-high 10 tackles as well. He gets his first career interception, and Jasper Sanders took it from there. He accounts for 60 of the 69 yards on the ensuing drive, caps it off with a 7-yard touchdown catch. Great effort by your senior running back.
Yeah, Jasper went 105 yards rushing, 47 yards receiving, and a touchdown. Just a special day. And Jasper also scored against them 2 years ago. So that must be his team, the Youngstown Penguins.
Special days, and I know there's another guy you want to mention just for different reasons, and that's Nick Olsen, who got to start at center in place of Sam McLaren, and here's a guy who's put in his time and finally got an opportunity and took advantage of it for you.
Hats off to Ole, Nick Olsen. Against Youngstown State, he was in on the line of scrimmage for 64 snaps, all of them perfect, and then he was on special teams in the shield for punt for 10 snaps, 74 snaps on the day for Nick Olsen. Hey, 2 weeks ago he was running our scout team, and then we had a couple injuries, and he came back up. He's a blue chip guy, I'll tell you that.
Good to see those guys shine in those opportunities. All right, well, 7-7 game at the half. Youngstown got it to start the second, but again, the defense makes another play. Drew Iddings gets in there, gets the sack and the fumble, and you take over inside Penguin territory in good shape.
Well, these are things Drew can do. Big man can push, and he got lock, stock, and barrel on this when he got the sack and then made the fumble and recovered it. We couldn't really roll with it, but we got in position to try a long field goal with the wind, and up steps
Miles Bergner. How about this guy, Joe? 50-yard field goal. He hits it. It's a new career long for him. He's 13 for 13 on the season. He's hit 15 straight going back to last year, throwing the punts and the kickoffs for that matter. I thought Miles had his best day as a Coyote.
He had a major league day for us. 10 punts, averaged 45 yards a punt, and his net was almost the same. He just had a fabulous day punting. Our snappers did a good job. I'll work with the snappers, the holders, and I would like to mention Shad Wilson. He's that means 15 in a row he's hit. And Munchie is he's doing the holding this year, and he's doing his part. So hats off to Miles Bergner, and he'd give those guys credit as well.
Well, that field goal gave you a 10-7 lead. You would add to that advantage on Kevin Earle's 1-yard quarterback sneak at the end of the third quarter, and at that time, it seemed like a huge touchdown because it made it a 2-score game.
We took the wind, got the 2-score lead, and then the roof caved in. Their speed got loose and hurt us badly in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, let's talk about that fourth quarter. Youngstown comes storming back. Penguins strike for 2 touchdowns in a span of just 4 plays at the start of that fourth quarter. Retake the lead. They had another to put the game away late. Disappointing end to what had been, to that point, a really good day for the Coyote defense.
Yeah. Just got to finish, and figure out a way to get it done. But I will say special teams, I think 2 of those drives were 97 yards. So you can't hang it on the special teams. We punted them down in there, had them pinned down, and Jody Webb, guy's got some burns, some straight heat, and he beat our fastest guys. That's all I can say.
So the final score, 28-17, and you move into this weekend now. 3 games remain. First of those comes right here at the Dome against Western Illinois. While their record might not show it, this is a much improved Leatherneck team coming in just one win in conference play, but they gave North Dakota State a very stiff challenge in Macomb. They've played a couple other teams really tough too. This is going to be a tough one for you guys.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They came in here and beat us 2 years ago, and just a good football team. They, like I said, 2 of their losses, I think, are Division I opponents. I know that Wisconsin beat them, and then they have played everybody tough and close, and actually got a win over Youngstown. We know how good they are. So got some really good football players. Trenton Norvell, their quarterback's already thrown for 2,175 yards, I think. Lance Lenore, 56 catches, 809 yards, 4 touchdowns. We know they're going to use those guys. In their tailback, J.C. Baker, 887 yards, 5 yards a carry. So this is a good football team coming in.
All right, well, certainly wish you the best of luck this weekend, Joe, and look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, thanks, Joe. Well, we've got more on this week's matchup with Western Illinois coming up in a bit, but first, Midco SN analyst Andre Fields stops by to help us sift through Saturday's storylines. That's next on Coyote Corner.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by BillionAuto.com.
Well, before we close the book on Youngstown State, we want to take one last look at the story behind the loss to the Penguins. And here to help us read that is Midco SN analyst Andre Fields. Andre, it's time for Saturday storylines, and we have to start this one at the end. The Coyotes were up 17-7 at the end of the third quarter, but things unraveled in a hurry. Youngstown State struck for 2 touchdowns in a span of 4 plays to start that fourth quarter, and USD just couldn't recover.
Yeah, and we saw exactly why the Penguins are ranked number 11 in the country. They have very explosive athletes who were on full effect in that fourth quarter. I think Coach Glenn even mentioned it in the postgame that some of their backs and receivers are just straight playmakers, and they made those plays in the fourth quarter and kind of put USD away.
Andrew Williams, the receiver that caught the long touchdown. Jody Webb, who just shows a different kind of speed. He had the long touchdown run that put them ahead at the end. So, as you said, playmakers making plays. Unfortunately, it really kind of soured what had been a pretty good effort for the defense through 45 minutes. The Penguins just found another gear. Nearly half of their total offense, 263 out of 557 yards, came in that fourth quarter. And unfortunately for USD, that's all that people are going to remember about this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is going to be all they remember because the USD defense played a great 3 quarters of football, and then just for that fourth quarter, they give it all up. But this is the direction that Coach Glenn wants to go. They want to build on this, and now they just have to finish. They had a good 3 quarters. Now if they can finish, put it all together, they'll be right on track.
And it's been kind of the Achilles heel for this team over the last 3 years. Close, but just unable to finish the job at the end.
Absolutely.
All right, well, on the plus side, USD put an emphatic end to that recent takeaway drought, which had spanned more than 16 quarters. The Coyotes forced 3 Penguin turnovers on Saturday. That led to 10 of their 17 points, and it was one of the big reasons they were in position to win this game going into that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it was good to see, Jay. It was good to finally see them get some extra possessions for the offense, and you could see what the offense did with those extra possessions, able to go down and get into scoring position and actually get on the board. It was also good for the confidence of the defense to get a few takeaways, know that you can do that, and I think now going forward, they're going to want to build on that, see if they can continue to get takeaways, give the offense extra possessions.
Absolutely. As far as the individual standout of the day, offensively, it was running back Jasper Sanders. The senior put up 152 all-purpose yards, 105 on the ground, 47 through the air, plus a touchdown. This was just his second start since the injury to Trevor Bama, but he looked like a feature back.
Yeah, he did. And I remember you mentioned during the Oregon game that he looked like he belonged on the field. And this was the kind of production out of Jasper that we saw 2 years ago before he missed a year from the injury. So it's just something that we've come to expect. We hadn't seen it a lot, but now he was putting it on full display this afternoon. And it's definitely a good sign for the Coyote offense.
Yeah, and Wes Bashana, it looked like, was making maybe even more of an effort to find ways to get him involved. A little bit more creativity with ways to get the ball in open space, because as you know, that's where he's the most dangerous.
Yeah, and that's what they've been trying to do all year. They mentioned it before the season even started, that they wanted to get him some more touches in different spots because he's such a playmaker.
Absolutely. Finally, how about Miles Bergner? He sets a new career long with a 50-yard field goal. He's now 13 for 13 on the season in that department. Bergner also averaged nearly 46 yards on 10 punts. He got touchbacks on all 4 of his kickoffs. A strong wind did contribute to some of that, but I don't think there's any question, at least not in my mind, this was his best day as a Coyote.
Yeah, and this is the Bergner we expected all year long. He came out of high school as an Army All-American, had kind of a freshman season where he had to kind of get it together, and now he's flourishing this season. I mean, some of his punts, Jay, were just like he had a remote control on it. He would just say, okay, stop right there, and bounce inside the 5-yard line. Able to flip the field for the offense, and that's something that is a huge weapon for any football team.
Yeah, when your punter can do that, when your kicker can do that, that's a difference-making type of player for you. And so certainly good to see Miles delivering on all fronts for this USD team. All right, well, Bergner will look to continue his strong season this Saturday against Western Illinois. We'll preview the matchup with the Leathernecks when we come back.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by BillionAuto.com.
And welcome back. Well, 3 games remain in USD's 2014 season, and all of them will be set in South Dakota. Up first Saturday afternoon will be Western Illinois. The Leathernecks are 3-6 overall and 1-4 in the Valley, but this team is making strides under second-year head coach Bob Nielsen. A win at Youngstown State has been the highlight of their season, but they took a couple of other highly ranked opponents to the wire as well. North Dakota State and Illinois State both needed big fourth quarters to avoid being upset in Macomb, and they have had the Coyotes number as well, recording wins over USD in each of the past 2 seasons. Now for more on Western Illinois, we turn to Scott Kornberg, who's in his first season as the voice of the Leathernecks. Scott, this seems to be a team that is much better than its record indicates. What's the biggest difference in this program compared to what we've seen over the past few seasons?
You're right. I think a lot of people look at this team and they see 3-6 and only a couple wins, 1 win in the conference and 1 win in the last 5 games. So they've really struggled, but at the same time, they've had a really tough slate so far. 5 conference games, all against ranked teams. They played North Dakota State to the wire. Were winning into the fourth quarter in that game. They were winning by 21 points against Illinois State before dropping that game. And in between those, they upended the team you guys saw this past weekend in Youngstown State, who was ranked number 10 at the time. So, you know, that their record isn't great, but they've been really competitive in every single game. And it's a really young team. And you see these glimpses, and I think maybe next year's when they really take that step forward as a program.
Now, statistically, they've got one of the top quarterbacks in the league in Trenton Norvell, but he's not the only playmaker on this offense. He's got some weapons.
He does, and part of that, he's really grown this year. Game 1 to now, he's a completely different quarterback in terms of reading defenses and whatnot, but, I mean, this offense is totally spearheaded by J.C. Baker, their running back, and there's not much you can really say about him. He's phenomenal. He's small. He's very quick. He's very patient as a running back. He's really been advantageous to pound the rock on first and second downs, and they'll really work a short passing game with Norvell. And then at some point in their first or second drive, they'll take a play-action pass down the field off of those Baker runs, and that's more likely than not going to be intended for Lance Lenore. He has been phenomenal this season. 100-yard games almost every single time out in the conference play. Really good weapon, and that's the thing you talk about, the youth of this team. Norvell's a sophomore, Lenore's a sophomore. Those two should only keep growing, and they've got terrific chemistry together.
Finally, how about defensively? It seems like there's still some work to do on that side of the ball. What are the concerns for this defense?
They're last in the conference in passing defense, and I think that's probably the biggest concern. They've been all right against the run. They have a transfer at defensive tackle in Chris Farley, who's been really stout in the running game. Passing-wise, though, they don't get a great pass rush. They've had some games where they've been able to pressure the quarterback, but that has been really an exception to this season. And it hasn't helped that they've really been beat up in the secondary. They've had to go through 4 free safeties. A couple of them have been gone to season-ending injuries. And that's been the biggest thing, no pass rush, banged-up secondary. And with this defense, they're still trying to figure that out even this late in the season.
All right, he is Scott Kornberg, the voice of the Leathernecks. Well, Western Illinois and South Dakota will square off Saturday afternoon at the Dakota Dome. The all-time series is tied at 2 games apiece, but the Coyotes will be looking for their first win over the Leathernecks since 1977. If you can't get to the Dome, don't worry. You can see it right here on Midco Sports Network. Andre Fields and I will have the call for you with coverage kicking off at 4 p.m. Well, South Dakota did have one team celebrating on Saturday. We'll recap the women's cross-country team's run to the Summit League Championship after this.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by BillionAuto.com.
And welcome back. Well, the University of South Dakota cross-country teams were in Fargo this past weekend at the Summit League Conference Championships, and they didn't come back to Vermilion empty-handed. For more of the Coyotes' success on the course, here's Alex Heinert.
Thanks, Jay. Well, Saturday proved to be a landmark day for the USD women's cross-country team as the Coyotes picked up 4 of the top 6 spots in the field en route to capturing their first Summit League championship in program history. With a deep team coming off a strong season of performances, head coach Dan Fitzsimmons knew his squad was in position to make a run at the title.
Well, we've had a great season. Our women were running really well. We had faced all of our conference opponents throughout the year, and we were very successful, so we were hoping that would continue. But you run conference meets for a reason, and of course that's because nothing's a done deal.
Despite facing a talented field in harsh conditions, the Coyotes essentially made their victory a done deal early on thanks to the effort of their entire team, not just their top 2 or 3 runners.
Amber Eichhorn and Katie Wetstein were battling up there with the North Dakota State runner trying to win the race, but they knew well enough that, if they didn't win, that wasn't going to hurt our team chances. And so they finished second and third, and then Bethany Kozak, a freshman, and she was newcomer of the year. She kind of ran through the field and wound up finishing fifth. And then Kelsey Barrett moved up to sixth, and then Nicole Schmidt was 13th. And so real low score. I mean, it was not something we would have anticipated scoring on that day, but certainly we'll take it.
Thanks to those strong finishes, the Yotes cruised to the team victory with 29 points, 31 ahead of second-place North Dakota State, the three-time defending conference champion. Given the way his team performed and the margin of victory they achieved, "we'll take it" might be a bit of an understatement.
The women had asked me, well, how many points do you think we'd need to score to win a conference championship? And I said, if you score under 50, you'll be in the hunt. So to score 29 was just like icing on the cake.
For Fitzsimmons, who was named the Summit League Women's Cross Country Coach of the Year, the conference title is a great accomplishment, but he's quick to point out it wasn't earned by this group of athletes alone.
I've been here 7 years, and we've had 7 years of kids who are committed to the program and to the university. And I think when they woke up this morning or yesterday and saw that we had won, I'm sure they had a little smile on their face because they kind of paved the road for us to do this.
It was a great day for the Coyote women and for the cross-country program as a whole, as the men finished in third place overall behind IUPUI and South Dakota State, with 3 USD runners placing in the top 6 to earn all conference honors. Next up for both Coyote teams is the NCAA Midwest Region Meet, which will take place in Peoria, Illinois on Friday, November the 14th.
Yeah, what an incredible performance. Congrats again to Coach Dan Fitzsimmons and the USD women. Good luck to both teams coming up at Regents. All right, for the latest on South Dakota football now, be sure to check out MidcoSN.com and the Coyote Quarter video blog. Alex and I will take another early look at this week's matchup with Western Illinois in a post on Wednesday. All right, that is our time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next week for another edition of Coyote Quarter.